Welcome, Jim.
Well, thank you.
And the one thing to be sure of is make certain that your mic is up where we can hear you clearly, all right? So check it out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, is that pretty good with everyone? Welcome.
Well, thank
You have a few minutes to make an opening statement if you care to do so.
Okay. Good afternoon, members, Madam Chairman, members of the Arizona Game and Fish Commission Appointment and Recommendation Board. My name is Jim Ohako. I'm a third-generation rancher, born and raised in Winslow, Arizona. We ranch approximately 40 miles southwest of Winslow. I have been blessed, well, I should say about my education. I graduated from Winslow High School, went to the University of Arizona, and I have a degree in animal science with a minor in range. I was accepted into vet school, but due to loyalty to my family, and my dad was sick at the time, he told me to come home and lay out a semester, and I've been there ever since. I never did go to vet school. Anyway, I've been blessed to have been raised and work in the great outdoors of northern Arizona. I have many experiences with observing wildlife, several different species. On the ranch itself, we almost have the Arizona Big Ten. We're short the buffalo, and the buffalo range is, the Raymond Ranch is a few miles west of us. But anyway, all my life, I've been around wildlife, all kinds of wildlife. We have elk, deer, and pronghorn antelope. They're the biggest species we have, but we have bear, lion, javelina, you name it. All my life, I've wanted to be a game commissioner. And before this, I was too busy on the ranch trying to make a living. But now I'm retired, and I have time to do it full time. If you've read my biography and with my background, you can see that I have done many conservation practices over my life. Many. I've worked with state and federal agencies to perform these conservation projects. And some of these conservation projects that we've completed will be there long after I'm gone. And they're good for cattle, but wildlife also. One project I'm most proud of, and it took me 20 years to do, is the High Point Well project. We now have 45 miles of pipeline, 35 drinkers, and we leave the water on in the pastures after we move the cattle out. We leave the water on for the wildlife. In the last few years, it's been a real drouthy, dry situation. We had no earthen tank water, but this well supplied water every day for the wildlife and the cattle. So we were very fortunate to have it. I never knew it was going to get this dry. We needed the water that bad, but fortunately, it was there, and we watered a lot of wildlife. Our ranch is in Unit 4A. It goes from the top of the Mogollon Rim to the reservation north of Winslow, the Navajo Reservation. So we have a good area there. There's two ranches in that area, the Hopi Three Canyon Ranch and ours. So we have a lot of wildlife. Another project I'm proud of is a few years back, I partnered with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on mastication of juniper trees. They're called Utah junipers, and they're more or less a weed. We had a machine that ground them up into mulch, and when it rains, that mulch gets the moisture, and you'd be surprised at what we've had come up. Not the last year or so, because it's been so dry, but before that, just different seeds and different grasses that we hadn't seen in years. So we helped pronghorn mostly there, but a lot of elk too, because that brings on browse which the elk come off the high country, I call the high country, the Mogollon Rim, down to our area, and we produce a lot of winter fat. It's called Bigelow sage. But anyway, elk do real well on it. Cattle do too. So we've increased the carrying capacity for wildlife and cattle by removing those trees. Another thing we've done is make wildlife-friendly fences. That is, we've removed the bottom wire, barbed wire, and put a smooth wire on the bottom. So when antelope go under it, they don't hurt themselves, scratch them or cut them. So we've done a lot of that. That's for the antelope. And then for the elk, we put in what I call elk jumpers. I forget what Game and Fish calls them. But anyway, they're on a designated trail, game trail. And we cut the fence out, and they're made out of angle iron and rebar. And this way, when the elk jump the fence, they don't catch their legs on the barbed wire and tear your fence down. And these have worked real well. Arizona Game and Fish has built a lot of them for me. We built them there at the ranch ourselves. But I bet now we got over 100 of those jumpers throughout the ranch. So it's been a good thing working with these conservation groups, whether it be Arizona Game and Fish or U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And also I've worked with the U.S. Forest Service, BLM, all these state and federal agencies. As a rancher, I've had to make management decisions over my life, management, business, and personnel decisions, a lot like Arizona Game and Fish does, but not on such a big scale. So I've had a lot of business decisions to make in my life. And as you know, ranching's pretty tough. I mean, it's never been tougher than the last few years with the drought. We've had to cut our herd down, but we've had a little rain this last summer and put a little water in our dirt tanks, and things are looking better. I would like to kind of conclude by saying, as a commissioner and as a hunter, I've worked with hunters, recreationalists, outdoors people my entire life. And I think I've formed a bond with them to conserve, to help us all conserve what's in the outdoors. Whether it be wildlife or recreation, it's a good thing that we can work together. And we did this on the Landowner Leasing Committee, which Arizona Game and Fish had a few years ago. And this was a committee, and I really enjoyed it. You had landowners, sportsmen, hunters, recreationalists, off-road people, and we'd sit down and we'd go through our problems and how we can fix them. And I believe, I was always happy when I left the meeting that we did a job. We got to work together and got the job done. So I'd like to see that put back in. I don't know why Game and Fish took that out of their agenda a few years ago, but they did. But for the last 15, 20 years before that, it worked real well. I would like to tell you a little story, and I'll make it short. And it's a true story. In 1913, a year after Arizona became a state, the Winslow Elk Lodge sponsored translocation of Rocky Mountain elk from Wyoming to Arizona. If you know your history of elk, Merriam elk was hunted to the point of extinction. There was no elk in Arizona. So in 1913, the Winslow Elks Club took it upon themselves to bring that, there was 80 head. And they brought them by railroad. There was no good roads in this. So they brought them by railroad, unloaded them at Winslow, the stockyards at Winslow, fed and watered them for 3 days. There was 80 head, mind you. And they loaded them in wagons. They didn't have no trucks and no roads, so wagons. And they put sideboards on the wagons, and they put a cover on the top of the wagon so the elk wouldn't jump out. And they headed 45 miles southwest of Winslow to a place called Cabin Draw. 80 head. Okay. Took them 3 days to get out there. They unloaded them, fed and watered, rested them, and then they turned them out. That was in 1913. 80. Today, we have over 35,000 of Rocky Mountain elk in the state. So talk about conservation and management and preservation. That was a good indication of what happened. It wasn't the Arizona Game and Fish then. It was just a year after Arizona became a state. But the Arizona Game and Fish Commission was established shortly after that. And I think the department came around in, as I remember, 1958. So it became the Arizona Game and Fish Department. But anyway, long story short, see what can happen. And now a lot of those elk were after the North American model of conservation of wildlife. So from 80 head to 35,000. I guess that concludes my opening statement.
Well, thank you very much. I will add that my husband's grandfather participated in that same elk translocation project. So I've got family back to there too. So anyway, we will go around the board and ask some questions, okay? Let's start with Charlie this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess we're still morning. I'll say good afternoon, but good morning, Jim. My first question for you, with the onset of COVID pandemic last year in 2020, Arizona, like many states, has seen a huge increase in sportsmen taking to the field. This trend has created increased demand for hunting and fishing opportunities. As a commissioner, what steps would you take to increase these opportunities while still conserving our fish and wildlife populations?
Well, Charlie, yes, you're right. Since COVID, there's been a lot more people out recreating. And here's one thing. We need to get the younger generation involved in hunting. I mean, they're still young hunters, but we need to get more of them if we're continue to manage our species the way we do. A better bonding with recreationalists is important. So I think that there's many ways you could do it, and it's being done, but we can do better at it.
Thank you.
Jim, I think you partially answered this question, but I think we need to ask it. A major key to keeping an effective 5-member commission is having every member attend and participate in every meeting. Given your current occupation, which is retired, and other obligations, are you able to fulfill this tremendous commitment of time to serve the commission?
Yes, Mr. Madden. I'm retired. I've been a busy man over my life, but I'm finally slowing down, and I want to do something that I actually wanted to do all my life. So I would have the time to devote to the commission.
Thank you.
Phil?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Ohako, it's very nice to see you. First off, I have a little question. Do you have a current Arizona hunting or fishing license?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
I have a Pioneer Arizona hunting and fishing license.
Very good, very good. I think you're the second one today that has a Pioneer license, so I like to hear that. Okay, for my question, can you tell us what experience you have in public policy and how you could use this experience in your role as an Arizona Game and Fish Commissioner?
As far as public policy, you know, I've served on a lot of committees over my life. I was president of Arizona Cattle Growers for a couple of years. Farm Bureau, I was up in the offices there at Farm Bureau. NRCD offices, Natural Resource Conservation District. I've been a supervisor for over 25 years. So I've had a lot of experience with the public and different agencies. Worked with them all my life.
Would you have a follow-up question? No? All right. Go for it.
Jim, please tell us what.
Mike.
Please tell us what you believe to be the two most important issues that the Arizona Game and Fish Department may face in the next 5 years.
Well, one is what they've been doing, and they're doing it maybe a little bit better, is manage wildlife populations, manage and protect the wildlife population. And another thing, like we were talking about, there is more people wanting to get out into the outdoors recreationalists. So have more things to do for those folks that get out in the outdoors.
Thank you. I have no phone.
Thank you very much. Jim, let's make sure we can hear you, okay? That was just marginal right there.
Okay.
So power at it, okay? My question would be, you have dealt extensively with the federal-state interface. What with your branch and your location, you have often been able to work with Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife, and other federal agencies. Arizona has the obligation to manage its wildlife, but that obligation is often a matter of collaboration and sometimes competition between the state and federal agencies. Would you like to comment on any of that and your experience with it?
Well, you know, I've collaborated, like I said before, in my opening statement, with all agencies, and I've worked well with them. The U.S. Forest Service, we have a Forest Service allotment where we run cattle. Every year, we've got to go through the same procedure, but work well with the Forest Service. We have some BLM properties that I have to work with them. Arizona Game and Fish has been my partner for years and years on many things. Like the High Point Well project, it would have never been successful if it wasn't for Arizona Game and Fish. We, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, believe it or not, I worked with them for years. And then when I was with cattle growers, the wolf situation was, as it is still today, very at the top of the list. So I've been working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Arizona Game and Fish on the wolf. Jim DeVos, Chris Greer, they're very good people that are managing it for the Arizona Game and Fish Department. So they, but they got to go by some of the federal regulations. That's the only bad thing. So, did that answer your question, sir?
Sure does. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rich, would you like to go for the next one?
Thank you, I will. Jim, please describe the North American model of wildlife conservation and how it relates to the Arizona Game and Fish Commission and the Arizona Game and Fish Department.
Okay, the North American model says that wildlife belongs to the public, and they're held in public trust. And the Arizona Game and Fish Department and the Commission, the wildlife agencies, they manage that population for the North American. But anyway, they're funded by hunting licenses, tags, and then taxes on sporting equipment, such hunting and fishing equipment. And also they want to manage populations for public enjoyment, whether it be for wildlife viewing, photography, recreation, all those sort of things, or just things in general for the public to enjoy. So that's about the three main things I would say for the North American model.
Thank you.
Thank you. Phil.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Ahakam, what would be your long-term goal and your short-term goal or priorities for the Game and Fish Department if you were to be selected commissioner?
Well, the Game and Fish Department, the Commission has done a fantastic job for years. They've done a good job. Management of populations, I want to say the laws, protecting wildlife with good laws. I would just try to do maybe more things with recreation, but the commission has done a very good job with the wildlife over the years, and that's why we have what we have. We have a state abundant with wildlife, and it's thanks to the commissioners for the last 20, 30 years.
Pat?
Jim, could you give me your concept of fair chase? Oh, sorry.
Mike. Jim, could you give me your concept of fair chase?
Basically, that gives the wildlife a fair chance. Like a lawful pursuit and taking of wildlife should be done in a sportsmanlike manner. You know, years ago, there was one man, one hunter, one wildlife, and there was no technology then. So some of the technology we have today can give wildlife unfair advantage. And I can name a couple of them, like artificial light, drones, airplanes. Another one that comes to mind is DuPont spinners. So anyway, that's a fair chase, I guess. I hope I answered that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Johnny?
Thank you. Jim, my second question has to deal with the attempt the last couple of years by a bunch of groups to curtail the take of mountain lion and bobcats in Arizona. This issue has also challenged the role of the commission and the department in managing Arizona's wildlife through science-based conservation, with the risk of wildlife management being decided instead at the ballot box. How do you view this threat, and what steps do you feel are important for the commission and the department to take in the future to protect their authority in managing Arizona's wildlife?
Mr. Kelly, that's a tough one to answer. But I look at it this way, where there's a will, there's a way. We can make it better. The commission can make it better than it is now. I'm not saying it's not working, but through conservation management and perseverance, we can make that a better situation.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question, however, you have experience with this, as I do too, and that is the Landowner Lessee Sportsman's Cooperation, and you've been an active participant in it. What would you advise that group and the commission to do to increase access to state lands and federal lands through private lands, to increase the cooperation, and considering that we have restricted access by federal designations of much of the land in Arizona as primitive or primitive study areas or other refuge situations where access can be quite limited, especially can be the subject of litigation. What would you do through that Landowner Lessee Sportsman's Cooperation group to advance that access that we need for recreation?
Well, as I said in my opening statement, the Landowner Lessee Sportsman Committee has been disbanded the last few years. And to me, that was one of the best committees here at the department for access, adopt a ranch, and things like that. But I'd like to see us put that back together, the Landowner Lessee Committee, because in my opinion, it did well. But yes, access is a big problem in Arizona. Not a big problem, but more and more ranchers are like me. We're participating in the access program, opened up our lands, our deeded lands, our private lands. What Game and Fish has done for us, we have a sign-in box. They come up to a gate, they sign in, and all their information is put down there, their license, hunt tag number, their vehicle license, and all that, and that works well. We've had a few incidents where We've had a problem, vandalism, and our wildlife manager has been able to track the people down. And then being on that landowner compact agreement, that puts more teeth into the access program. There's 13, like I said, I think ranches in the state, they're on that compact agreement. And if they violate, for example, on my ranch and are convicted, they can't hunt on any of those ranches ever again. So that makes a hunter think twice sometimes. And Sue, getting back to your question, that's an ongoing battle because there's so little deeded land in the state of Arizona. I think there's 17%. The rest is federal reservations and what have you. But I believe, and I've seen it myself, a lot of ranchers in my area are opening up their ranches if they can get the sign in and boxes and the access agreement and the compact. So that is providing more area for hunters, more open space, I guess. And they don't feel so bad about locking their gates like they used to. So I hope I answered that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Does anyone else have anything else, that an issue that's been raised that you would have some other question? All right. Would you like to make a closing statement?
I would like to just say thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it. If selected as a commissioner, I think I can do the job. Everything in my life has been a challenge, especially for cattlemen. But I can handle this job, no problem. And I need one of those t-shirts that say, "Get her done," and I'll get her done. You know, I would like to read a statement, or it's a quote by Teddy Roosevelt. The nation behaves well if it treats the national resources as assets, which it must turn over to the next generation increased and not impaired in value. And that was President Teddy Roosevelt, and he's exactly right. Conservation, preservation, and good management is what we need to continue to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ohako. You may remain if you choose to remain, or you're welcome, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the candidates for being here today. Thank you for your interest in the Arizona Game and Fish Commission. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Rich, and I think we can all echo your statement. We have had the pleasure of listening to 4 very different but very qualified candidates. As a result, I would like to ask your preference. We can proceed with our 20-point allocation procedure, or I would entertain a motion at this point, if you wish, to send all 4 names to the governor. What is your preference, Pat?
So moved.
I will second. Second, Madam Chair.
Okay, well, we've got plenty of seconds here. It's been moved and seconded that we forward the names of all 4 of our candidates. If there's anyone who would like to return to the point system, I would give that serious consideration, because that's what we announced at the beginning. But if it is unanimous that we just forward the 4. Anyone want to comment?
Madam Chair, I would just want a general comment. I appreciate everybody that, first off, all the applicants that put in, and then the 4 that we interviewed today. In the years that we've been doing this, I don't think that we've had, as a whole, a better group of qualified candidates, and I sincerely appreciate that. You bring, every one of you, a very different aspect that would be valuable on this commission. And unfortunately, the governor only gets to appoint one, so please consider continuing your service and reapplying as the openings come up for those of you that are not selected. But I appreciate it very much, and what an amazing group of people you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil, and I think we all feel this way. This is the first time we've ever proceeded to that recommendation, because we have 4 very different but very qualified persons, and I want to echo the request that I hope, since only one of you can be selected for the moment, there are other options like applying next year if your county is still eligible, or just keep doing the work you're doing, and it will be appreciated and respected by all. We have a motion and a second to forward all 4 names to the governor for his consideration and appointment to the Game and Fish Commission. I will call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. I think we've done it. So, let's look at the agenda. And I think we are on future agenda items, number 7. We need to set a tentative date for our next meeting, which would be to probably telephone to approve the minutes, or we can leave that until the secretary lets us know when that is possible.
Madam Chair, I can contact the board members in December, and then we can set up a date for a January telephonic meeting if you wish.